I'm Pia Antico. I am your Joy Reboot mentor, coach and trainer and founder of Essential Awakening Mentoring. And today I'm going no hands, no notes, no presentation slides, just very quickly jumping on because I wanted to share with you something incredibly important to my heart as a Joy Reboot mentor and a woman who is 49 next week. And what I am finding is so incredibly important for women 40 and over is how we can approach being at the age and stage that we're in and not get caught up in the mainstream messaging, a lot of it which isn't very positive, a lot of that messaging being that we need to be youthful and stay youthful. I have been noticing in the celebrity news lately that people like, J-Lo. Well, J-Lo is really attractive after 45. She's 45 or older, or Madonna or what have you. They're 45 and older. They're still attractive. Well, what's making them still attractive according to mainstream society, of course, is that they are tenaciously clinging to what they might have looked like when in their 20s. Now, not at all saying at all that being a woman over 40 has to look a certain way in the sense of she has to wear certain colours or have her hair grey or anything like that. Hello, my gorgeous Tanya. Well, I'm jumping on absolutely live from my phone straight to the group because my setup with Zoom and the computer were not working for some stupid reason. So you'd get no damn slides, it's just me. And what I'm doing, talking to you today about, hey Megan, thank you, hey Megs, thank you for joining in. Say hey, let me know where you're tuning in from. So what I am awfully quickly talking to you about, because I'm going to keep to the time limit unlike the last summit. Sorry, Tanya. What I'm talking about is that there's more to life than more to menopause than hot flushes. What has become a very important issue for me that I'm just dying to work with other beautiful women over 40, it's something that I'm passionate about, is that we approach aging beyond the biology. What I am talking about, what is really important to me as a Joy Reboot mentor and as a woman who's 49 who is wanting to focus on helping other women over 40 awaken their joy within, particularly in relation to awakening their inner sacred crone. What I have noticed, and for those of you who don't know what does crone mean, I don't mean the disease, I mean our inner wise woman. Pre-Christianity, we had in a number of cultures, but certainly in Western culture, pre-Christianity, the notion of the older woman matriarch of the tribe, of the group, she was the wise woman. Even men, would go and talk to her and find out what she had to say about things. Often the older woman of the tribe was the law holder. She was the knowledge holder and the law holder. There is absolutely no doubt that the older woman pre-Christianity, pre-modern, and then obviously Christianity impacts our modern Western consumer culture at levels that we may not recognize so much anymore because a lot of us think we're secular and non-religious, and therein lies the problem. It's not so much about being religious, but what has happened in our modern culture is we have removed the sacred from the mundane. Pre-Christianity cultures tied intimately the physical aging and the physical aspects of being with spirit. And what we have lost along the way is the connection to spirit. What most people walk around these days believing is that they are just physical. They're just the physical reality and it's all that can be measured. Unfortunately, a lot of psychology even goes down that road as well. If it's not measurable, if it's not cognitive behavioral, then it's not real. early sciences even acknowledged the spirit within the physical. They didn't separate it, but bit by bit we started to remove the sacred from the physical, and this has become a huge problem for us, particularly now in relation to women, because our whole cycle of existence is intimately tied to the energetics and the spirit. We are spirit beings having a human experience. Yes, we have the physical body. Yes, there is a physical world out there. However, we are energetic beings navigating this physical world, and you cannot separate the two. And unfortunately, we live in a modern society that has very much tried to do that. I can see 3 other gorgeous little eyes there. Let me know who you are. Say hello to me, show some love. Let's get engagement on this. Let me know who you are, where you're from. What I am very quickly talking to you about and watching the time on that is the fact that there is way more about menopause than the hot flushes. There's way more about our aging as women than the physical body and the chronology of it. Oh, hello, yay, hey Ali, hey Erin, I love you, yay. Oh, yes. And I want to say from Erin's live the other day, I caught up with my father about my family lineage. It turns out that the female Italian relative of G, that with the name starting with G, that was floating around and supporting me in promoting the Sacred Crone and for women tapping into their inner wisdom. Indeed, I had such a relative. Her name was Giuseppina Riccici, and she was on my father's lineage, and indeed goes back 5 generations, and from Calabria, so hence the dialect that Erin was seeing. So there you go. I feel so absolutely joyful knowing that I have a beautiful spirit guide relative who is cheering me on with this. Which in turn, I know, it was amazing. And then in turn, talking with her, sending my questions to her, and that, she guided me to a book in Amazon that I just bought the other day, and so I'm waiting for it to come, on Italian kitchen magic. So it had a very good reputation, but I know. Oh, I love Erin. I mean, honestly. So this is it. This is all part of it. This is tapping into our ancestors. It's tapping into our inner wisdom. We all have within us our inner wisdom. This is what needs to be guiding us, not the story in our head. And not exactly. It's just beautiful. I mean, and to know that I have her behind me, yeah, absolutely. And I'm now looking to find more information out about her, actually. And this is it. These are the exciting things, knowing that we are part of something far greater than the physical world. And the thing is that what we have with modern Western society and the medicalized society, and particularly with women, we all know that anything to do with women's business and women's bodies and fertility and bladder infections and that, we all know that Western medicine does not take care of us at all in any way. I mean, none. And that the fact that there is this notion that I see out there, and I'm sure a lot of other women are noticing it as well, that any talk about menopause and the changing and aging of women, certainly from a Western medical point of view, it's virtually pathologized. It's an illness that needs to be cured in some way. And then you've got the Western consumer culture on the other hand, of course, promoting, as it always has, this notion that women need to be young, they need to be skinny, they need to be fertile. Admittedly, in Western society, the fertility baby giving moved away a little bit in the 60s with the sexual revolution. So a lot of people not wanting to be pushing out babies as much, but certainly being youthful and sexy and all that sort of thing, and those ideas there, there's pressure there for women to maintain an artificial standard beyond where we're at. Now, this is not to say at all that women that are in their aging years from 40 onwards are not attractive and beautiful and sexy and vibrant in and of themselves. They are, and in fact, this is the truth. We are more sexy, we are more juicy, we are more everything 40 and onwards. There's in fact studies that show the libido of women over 40 far greater matches the libido of a 20-year-old guy than men their own age. So the key here is we don't have to compete with 20-year-olds. In fact, why would we want to? And this is what I'm wanting my beautiful women over 40 who work with me, who work with awakening their joy within, who embrace their sacred crone. This is what I want for them. I want them to not make the mistakes I've made. One of the huge mistakes I made, I've been married twice. I was married at 22 and I have a beautiful 24-year-old daughter now, and she's fabulous, and thankfully she learnt from my mistakes, and she did get married last year, and she married a lovely young man who is an ally of women and an ally of her. And so I'm thrilled that she didn't make my mistakes. But I made mistakes in my 20s marrying a toxic man and getting out of that, and not getting out of it with the lesson needed. I was still caught up in a lesson that was one of lack of self-worth. You're 40 in June. Oh, darling, life begins at 40. This is it. It does. It absolutely does. And here's the truth of the matter is the brain, the frontal cortex, finally kicks into gear for us properly. I don't know. We're all wandering around as young adults with a brain that isn't actually functioning properly. So absolutely, life begins at 40. But I'm actually talking to beautiful women around about in a few other women over 50 groups, and they're telling me 55 was the sweet spot. So there you go, I'm dying for 50. I'm 49 next week. I'm looking forward to 50 and beyond. I've got my motto for myself for the remaining year: financially and physically fit by 50. I didn't quite cotton on at 40. I was still at 40 struggling with trying to make up for lost time in my 20s when I had major injury and major accident and the first abusive marriage. So in between being 38 and 42, I had a moment there where I was single, but I was not in tune with myself at that point. So much so that unfortunately I got married a second time. Yes, yeah. Look, I certainly got to say, yeah. I know I hear from other beautiful women that their 30s were beautiful as well. I think what made my 20s and 30s very difficult, however, for me was I was run over at 100 kilometers an hour at the age of 28. So it took 14 years to really get my brain working again and get over that head injury. I was still in my first marriage even at that point. I got rid of the first husband, 24th. I managed to get rid of the first husband in 2006, I believe. Yeah. And so I was floating around single 2006 for about 6-7 years. And then I met my second ex, and unfortunately I hadn't learnt my lesson and I married a second time. This time I married a younger guy, different ethnicity, different religion, different continent. I sold up my whole life and went and lived in another country and did that. Now, unfortunately, at 40, I think it was 42 when I married him, I unfortunately married into an ethnic group and a religious group that really focused on women and fertility and babies. And I stupidly put this pressure on myself by marrying into that to fertility drugs and all the rest of it to make sure that I would get pregnant. Now, I did get pregnant. I got pregnant twice. I had 2 miscarriages between 2014 and 2017, or 2014, 2016. So I did mid 2016. So here I can tell you, yes, in my early to mid 40s, I was popping out babies, well, attempting to pop out babies. And the mistake there I made was that I was not embracing my age. I was not embracing and celebrating this very special stage I was in, coming into a woman of wisdom. I was ignoring it. I was denying it. I was still trying to be 20-something and took on that pressure. And I can tell you that was a huge, huge mistake. Not to say also that the man that I married also turned out to be toxic. Maybe had he not been also a difficult man to be with, maybe I would have come through that differently. But I certainly found myself in my early 40s not catching up with the truth, not catching up with the inner wisdom that was mine to hold on to, that was mine to dive into and live from. I was still up here in my head, and this is what happens when we don't have an understanding, when we have not awoken to the truth of our human experience. And I did not have that truth back then. The truth is, the outside world does not cause us to feel anything. But we all have this story. Most of us are wandering around saying stuff like, other people are making me feel stuff. My kids are pissing me off. My husband is a jerk. My job is frustrating me. We say stuff like that. And we then look for the answers outside of ourselves. We look to change the situation, change the people. We think that the relationship itself is the problem, and we seek to change the relationship, manipulate stuff. The truth of the matter is, everything about our experience in this world is thought created. Absolutely, there's a physical world. Absolutely. Yes, it all starts within. Now, I mean, yes, it's a physical world, and please don't misunderstand me saying that. There is a physical world. If I cut myself, if I bleed, if you are in any form of physical harm, it is our contract with the universe to not be in harm's way. So when I am saying that our experience is thought created, I am not saying for 1 minute that you should stay in any physical harm or any kind of harm. Our contract with the universe is one to be in harmony. We are by default, our spirit is by default joy. It is unconditional love. It is forgiveness. It's wisdom. So anything in our life that takes us away from accessing our inner wisdom, then this is something we can't be in. And oppression of any sort is indeed something that we can't stay in. I know that I was upset with my hubby. I needed to ask myself, Tanya, are you out of alignment? It's been absolutely, absolutely. And see, here's the thing. Even when it came to the abuse of ex-husbands, when I understood that it was my thinking in the moment that was creating my experience, and I understood this to be really the truth, because having left the ex-husband in Pakistan and flown back to Australia, and I'm sitting on my new lounge in my lovely new apartment. He's never seen it. He never would see it. Yet for a good 2 years after getting back, I was still traumatized. I was still very caught up in the story. I was trying to understand it. I was trying to understand myself and him. And it hit me one Saturday afternoon. It was sunny in the afternoon like this, and I'm sitting on my lounge and I'm playing a conversation in my head. And it was so real. For a moment, it was like he was actually there. And it took a distraction going behind me in the mirror, in the window. It took a distraction for me to snap out of it and realize in that moment I had the epiphany. I am the cause of my own suffering. He wasn't here. I was absolutely the only cause of my suffering by reliving the past in the present. I tell you right now, the past is dead. The past will tell you absolutely nothing. You do not need to analyze it. You do not need to pick it to pieces. You don't need to look at the content of what you're thinking or why you're thinking it. The way the human experience works, 100% of the time, is that a thought pops in our head, an emotion arises, a sympathetic, parasympathetic nervous system response arises. And if we don't attach story, if we don't attach our attention on the thought and the emotion, they just go away all by themselves. We don't have to do anything. So a lot of sort of the other modalities out there have you focused on changing and shifting and moving and manipulating, or having you change your feeling, like being false positive. You know, none of this is necessary. Absolutely none of it. What is our true nature is our wisdom nature, and that is within us, and that is there at all times. Hey Ali, thank you for tuning in. Love you. We don't have to do anything to change our experience. It's simply awareness. It's awareness of what the truth is. It is awareness that a thought will arise, an emotional expression will happen because of it, and if we leave it alone, they just flow away. And what we're left with when we allow for the natural ebb and flow of our emotions and our thoughts, what we realize in that stillness is that we have this radiant inner wisdom, and we have access to it 24/7. We don't have to do anything specific. We don't have to actually even, and this is what something was very interesting, we don't actually have to meditate. We don't actually have to do anything in particular to access our wisdom. It is the default factory setting when we're not stuck in our head. What I notice these days is, yes, I meditate. Yes, I do wonderful alignment strategies. I do energetic stuff. But I realize now that before, when I meditated and did alignment activities, I was chasing an end goal. I was chasing an experience. I was chasing that inner peace, thinking that the activity was the thing that caused the experience. It's not. It's wonderful to do them, but they are in them of themselves not the creator of what is already innately there. And sometimes we can get very lost in the rituals and lose sight of the fact that we are not the end product of a ritual. We are actually already wisdom beings. Oh, absolutely. It's totally, it is completely us. It is absolutely completely us. There's no point. And so any of these, I will nail it to the floor here and say it very, very clearly. How I work from my Awaken the Joy Within model. I work from an inside out paradigm by Sydney Banks, and it was he'd coined that phrase and talked about this and brought it to awareness in the 70s. He talks about it as being a paradigm because it's like gravity. Gravity just is. We don't have to do anything to make gravity happen. It just is. We can see the effect of gravity when we do stuff like go into outer space and stuff, but we don't have to create the gravity. We don't have to do anything. It is a law unto itself. Well, the law unto the human psyche is such that we are all meaning creators. We are feeling our thinking in the present moment. The outside world does not make us feel anything. There is an outside world. There is a physical reality. If someone hits you, it will hurt. Hence why we don't stay complacent in any form of oppression. But what was beautiful that I noticed is that before I understood this truth, it took a lot longer to get out of abusive marriage number one, because I actually believed that I was the cause. Like he'd say, you're the cause of me abusing you. And I believed him. because I had that belief that the outside world is causing me to feel things. And it's just so common. It's common in our society to say that. We say, it's in movies, it's in books, it's everywhere, that this notion that our children are pissing us off, or our job is frustrating us, or, you know, our husband is either making us happy. That's the other thing. We've got this whole romantic culture out there saying notions that other people make you whole or something. No one, you're not broken, you're not empty, and no one can fill you up with anything. In fact, again, our default factory setting is love, unconditional love. And when we know that there is this unconditional love to show up in the present moment with an open heart and goodwill, we can have that for people who we even disagree with. We don't need to be compatible. We don't have to put them in a special category or anything like that. It's just simply that we are love. It all comes down to our thinking in the moment. But the beautiful thing is we don't have to do anything about the thinking. As I've got multiple degrees in psychology, and I did initially believe and followed the premise that you had to do stuff with your thinking. Got this particular thought, it's not a positive thought, and that I need to analyze it, and I need to reframe it, and I need to do stuff. You don't. It's just thought. Everything is just thought in the moment. And when you have that insight, it's an embodied insight. It takes it out of being an intellectual, abstract, theoretical to a heartful wisdom. And when you realize that, then what happens is that when a thought comes into your head, you just see it for what it is. It's just thought, good thought, bad thought, whatever. And you don't get freaked out by it. You don't get freaked out by the emotion that arises because of the thought. It's just thought. And if you leave thought and emotion alone, they ebb and flow like the tide. You don't have to do anything. Immediately upon one leaving, another arises. We are all one thought away from a completely abundant, infinite, radiant, expansive experience. It is completely within us. And the fact that we are spirit beings. So tying all this back before I wrap things up and stay on time, yay! Tying this all back in, so what does this mean for us as sacred crones, as keepers of wisdom? Well, I have a unique 6-step model of joy, and it's called AWAKEN, both as a concept of what happens, you're awakening the joy within, but it's also representing the 6 steps. And those 6 steps are having awareness, the awareness of the truth of what we are and the truth of how we experience the world. When we have that awareness as an embodied heartful wisdom, so we're out of the intellect and into the heart now, that's when the transformations happen at levels that you can't conceive, but they ever deepening and ever expanding. Wisdom. We are wisdom beings. We are sacred crones, tapping into our inner wisdom in the present moment and living heartfully. Heart forward, not head forward, means that we can be authentic, we can be unapologetic, we can be fearless compassion. This is the key to having a beautiful life, is having compassion. So we can stand for ourselves and go, yes, this is what I mean, and I'm saying no to this and yes to that and all that stuff. But it's doing it from a place of compassion. Because I used to be completely militant. Everything was about, screw you, fuck this, tear it down kind of stuff. And that was even in with the ex-husbands. And the beautiful thing is, I was able to finally let go of the stories of both my ex-husbands. I was very upset, but from the time I've left it, the life is right. Exactly. You leave it alone. Stop poking the dead bear. Don't do it. Unnecessary. You're not going to find the answers there. And the reasons why you don't find the answers in the past is because when we were experiencing that past in the present moment way back then, we only can see and experience a limited reality. We all have our own realities. We all have our own understandings. We can all be, say, watching the same movie at the same time, but each of us will walk out with a very different experience of that same, what appeared to be the same event, because one of us may well have been caught up in a story in our head, another might have been feeling cold, another could have been focused on eating the popcorn, another person's watching the film and they have a very different experience of what the film means, because we have our own stories. And then we could all leave the cinema and then recount our experience and find that no one had the same experience. So when we are in relation with other people, friends, family, what have you, we might think we're all having the same experience, and we might actually start getting really pissed off and frustrated at them. Surely they'd see things the way I saw them. No, no one sees things the way we see it. Absolutely not. We all have our own reality, hence why asking questions is really important. And so most of the time, most of our communication is half-assed, half-baked, and we don't actually touch base with what the truth is for the other person. We just respond to the story in our head about our assumptions about them. We all do it. We get better at it when we understand the truth of our human experience and what's going on. But the beauty of knowing this is that once I realized that, I was able to separate the abuser and the abuse and go, they weren't abusing. I mean, they were. I was physically in a difficult situation, but the truth of the matter is they were responding to the story in their head, which may or may not have included me, but they weren't actually responding to me directly. So when I realized that, I realized, well, I didn't have to understand them. I didn't have to understand what was going on in order to let it go. I could have compassion for them. Clearly they were having a problem. They had problem thinking and problem emotions, and they didn't know how to handle it, and that's how they responded. But I didn't have to do anything further than that. I didn't have to spend the rest of my life trying to understand it and analyze it and this, that, and the other in order to let it go. Once I saw what was at play, it just evaporated all of it as all on its own, as you said, and you just get on with life. The joy is in the present moment. The more we give ourselves the opportunity to not be caught up in the head and the stories we're telling ourselves, but be open. Our heartful wisdom in the present moment is by default joy. It is by default wise, unconditional love. It is radiant, it's expansive, and we are directly connected to the universe and all its abundance. It's only our thinking that gets in the road. Now, we can't stop thinking. Okay, wrap this up very shortly. We can't stop thinking. We don't have to stop our thinking. That's the other reality as well. Some of these other modalities out there have you either believing that you have to change what you're thinking or do stuff to stop yourself from thinking. You cannot stop thought. We have thousands and thousands of thoughts a day. They just pop in our head. It's not about stopping it. It's simply an awareness that it's thought. And it's not anything more than that. And our thinking is not in itself telling us anything about the reality. Not completely. We can't. It is. It is. It is. It's the present moment. And what's wonderful, we don't, we don't have to do anything. The more we try and chase the present moment through rituals and things or what have you, believe me, I spent 20 years chasing the present moment through Buddhist meditation and through yoga. I still do them all, but I understand now that it is not through the activities itself that you get to the present moment. The present moment, in fact, is just that. It's just a release. And what I have, in fact, is I'll leave you guys with it before I go. I have recorded it as a guided meditation in its proper form. So in fact, what I will do is I've got a lovely little package, a lovely little offer. It's my aligned April offer that's still going. And the aligned April offer is this guided meditation that will jump you into immediately tapping into what your true self is. It's beautiful. It's like bundle up the past, pop it over there. Bundle up the future, pop it over there. All the concept of self that you have, bundle it up, put it down. And what is left is the present moment. What is left is your inner wisdom. And it's so effective. It's probably the most effective meditation I've ever done. And I recorded it. And along with that meditation, so it's a 12-minute guided meditation, you also get a 30-minute clarity session with me. And it's my Aligned April super bonus. And it's $44 US. It's absolute fucking bargain. So what I will do is I will put the link to that somewhere around this video, because I want you to taste what it's like to find your true self. And what you'll realize is you don't actively have to do. It's about release. It's about letting go. And I absolutely love it. And the more you tap into it, and the more you work through embodying my 6 elements of joy, the 6 steps to awakening the joy within, which I have a beautiful 7-week program that's going to be launched very soon. I'm so excited about that. Awaken the joy within, embraces your sacred crone. And it takes you through those steps, the awaken steps. And what it's all going to be very experiential as well. I'm super excited about it. I'm so excited about so many things, actually, really. But because I know that I'm tapped onto the right thing with the Sacred Crone. It's all about our inner wisdom. And when we live from our present moment inner wisdom, there's no going wrong. We can do things like this. Look, my hands free, no notes. I didn't really prepare this. I'm here, I'm talking because I know that what I'm saying in this moment right now is the right thing. Imperfect action as it is, totally fine. And there you go. And I've done bloody well. It's 5:38. So I'm going to love you all and leave you. Absolutely don't live in the past. Put the past away. Answers are not found there. Just get on with things. So the truth is, we all did absolutely the best we could with what we had at the time. And at the end, everything is for our benefit, even the crappy things we think are crappy at the time, like 2 crappy ex-husbands and financial ruin and all the rest of it. I wouldn't be here talking to you now if I hadn't gone through that. So what can you say? It is what it is. We do the best we can. Compassion for yourself, compassion for other people. Forgiveness does not mean that you stay in crap. It just simply means that you're letting it go with the understanding that everyone's bumping around in this world in the best possible way that they can. And it's not personal. Absolutely not. Everyone is responding to their own story in their head. So there's no need to get defensive. There's no need for judgment. There's no need to take anything on beyond knowing that. Love you, love you, love you. I'm getting going. 5:40. Yes. Love you. See you all later.